Alright guys, so I'm starting a new series today called By the Box, where I'm going to be going over all of the boxes in Yu-Gi-Oh! Duel Links, and I'm going to talk about which ones are good, which ones are bad, which ones are worth spending your gems or even actual money on, and which ones will have cards inside of them that will last for a long time and could be prevalent in the meta in the future. We're going to be working from bottom to top, so I'm going to start with Ultimate Rising and Age of Discovery today. We're going to be doing a main box and a mini box in each episode. So we'll jump into Ultimate Rising and talk about it. So the most obvious thing about Ultimate Rising right away is the prevalence of Sphere Karibo, which was good back then, it's good now, it still sees a ton of play, and it will likely see play for a long time. Very simple effect: when your opponent declares an attack, you can pitch him to the graveyard to switch that monster to defense position. And in a format where you start with 4,000 life points, this effect has been good for the entirety of Duel Links' life, and I see it being good for a very long time. And I would argue that Sphere Karibo himself makes Ultimate Rising worth going through, but thankfully, and this is kind of a funny thing about Ultimate Rising, is it's actually better than a lot of the older boxes because of some other key ultra rares that I'll talk about, but Sphere Karibo alone does make it better. I am going to add this caveat for going through this box, and this is going to apply for a lot of the older ones. Every once in a while, Konami does a half-off gem sale for the older boxes where each pack is 25 gems as opposed to 50, and I would wait for these sales. They don't come around terribly often, but they are for a few times a year, so I would recommend going through this box during a half-off gem sale, just to get a copy of Sphere Karibo or even something like Sonic Bird, which is one of the generic ritual searchers alongside Senju of the Thousand Hands. Senju can search out a ritual monster from your deck, but Sonic Bird can search out the ritual spell card. And with archetypes in the game right now like Vendread and then also Cyber Angels getting unrestricted, this card is still pretty good right now. It's not exactly meta, but if we ever get Nekroz in the game, this card could come up a lot more. And the thing about Sonic Bird is he's going to be good in any ritual deck that you would maybe want to build. He's future-proofed for sure, and he's just going to be a staple addition to a lot of archetypes that are in the game and could come in the game. So Sonic Bird is a good ultra rare to get in the box while also hunting for Sphere Karibo. The other pretty good ultra rare in the box is Fusion Gate, which currently sees a lot of play because of Cyber Dragons. They abuse this field spell alongside their skill Cyber Style, and the thing is Cyber Style will be nerfed very soon, and it's likely Fusion Gate will fall off in competitive play by extension. However, Fusion Gate itself just is a good card, and with other future releases in the game, it could see more play. So Fusion Gate is another one of the ultra rares in this box that makes going through it during a half-off gem sale worth it to me. However, the only other ultra rare card that I could see potentially getting play in the future would be the Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon, and the reason for that would be if Fists of the Unrivaled Tenyi is ever released in the game, then Blue Eyes could see competitive play here, because Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi can directly bring out a non-effect extra deck monster, and the best one in the game is definitely Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon because he has the highest attack value at 4,500. So a copy of Blue Eyes Ultimate Dragon could be pretty good in the future if Fist of the Unrivaled Tenyi ever comes out, but if it ever does, it'll probably be a while from now. The other ultra rares have been power crept into the dirt. Magic Jammer has been power crept by a rare card called Ultimate Providence. Hane has been power crept by cards like Raiko the Lightsworn Hunter and Axe Raider, while the best card in the game ever, it has technically been power crept by a lot of things. Magical Arm Shield is a decent battle trap, but once again, has been power crept. And then when we go down to the super rares, this is where this box kind of gets sad. Some of them saw play back in the day, and you could maybe have some gimmick decks that could utilize Shard of Greed. Order of Charge was okay at one point, same for Wonder Balloons. And then there's also Wicked Breaking Flameburge Bio, which saw some play for a little bit as well. But none of these cards are relevant anymore, and the only card that I could see you could even put in some kind of gimmick deck or have some fun with would be something like Shard of Greed, which wouldn't be a horrible super rare to get from the box. But predominantly, the thing about Ultimate Rising is going to be those three core ultra rare cards. But then you go down to the rares and the commons, and yeah, there's just really not a whole lot here, man. It was the first box in the game. We do have some restricted cards like Restructor Revolution and then Secret Pass to the Treasures, which were used to enable FTKs, and they've gotten restrictions for that. They will likely stay that way because in a format with 4,000 life points, FTKing from effect damage can be kind of tricky, and Konami's had to limit these cards to prevent that, and they've been limited for a long time because they could potentially be abused with future cards, but they don't see any play currently. So I do recommend going through this box one time during a half-off gem sale and getting another Sphere Karibo from the bundle deal. Then you can get yourself 2 copies of Sphere Karibo, and I also brought Sphere Karibo up in my Dream Ticket video as a not bad Dream Ticket option either, just so you wouldn't have to go through this box twice, as a matter of fact. However, if you were ambitious about building a ritual deck, you could go after Sonic Bird as well, multiple copies of it, and then you could get your copies of Sphere Karibo as well. And if that's what you're trying to build, then this box is actually better than most of the older ones and could be worth going through. Alright, now we're moving on to Age of Discovery, and man, I don't know what to say. It's just really bad. It's just really bad. So the poster boy, the main ultra rare, is Levi Dragon Daedalus, and his effect is pretty simple. If you control Umi, you can send it to the graveyard to Black Rose the field, except himself. And, you know, that effect is really good. But the problem with this card, and there's even a skill called Mystic Depths that will let you start the duel with Umi on the field, and yet this card is still bad because it's a level 7 monster that can't bring itself out. And that's just, it's too hard to work around. And I think one of the intended synergies with this card was Cost Down, which was released in this box, where you can reduce the level of every single monster in your hand by 2 by discarding a card, which would make Levi Dragon Daedalus a level 5 and only require 1 tribute, which isn't half bad for nuking the field. But then it becomes, you discard a card for Cost Down, so you lose 2 cards there, you get Daedalus on the field, you lose your Umi, you're just giving up so many resources to accomplish what Black Rose Dragon can do, and that's the thing. The card has been power crept by Black Rose Dragon. If it was a dragon type, it would be a lot better, but the fact that it's a sea serpent restricts it even more. It's not really a good card, it won't see play in the future, and it's not worth going after. Same could be said for Michizur. Activate only when a monster is sent from the field to the graveyard. Select and destroy 1 monster on the field. You can activate this card during the damage step. That really doesn't need to be there. However, this card is, you know, not bad. It's not a negative effect whatsoever. It was an ultra rare for a reason. It wasn't half bad, but once again, it's been power crept into the dirt. We have super rare cards like Hammer Shot and Fissure now that have power crept this card. We also have trap cards that have power crept it like Ballista Squad and Raigeki Break. It's not good now, it likely won't be good in the future. Both of the ultra rares in this box are not worth going for. As far as the super rares, it's almost the same story as Ultimate Rising, but I actually do think Age of Discovery overall has better super rares. I brought up Cost Down earlier. I probably give this card more credence than a lot of people. I like this card just because it can enable a lot of interesting things. The ability to reduce the level of a level 5 or 6 monster in your hand to where it can just be normal summoned, that can be useful in a lot of gimmick decks, some rogue decks, and you can do interesting things with it. And Cost Down is a card that I personally went through this box just to get because I like the card. Is it that good? Not really. Will it be that good in the future? No, but it will always have some prevalence in decks that utilize monsters that need to be tribute summoned. But that's another thing to keep in mind with the card, is at that point it does become a straight normal summon, so monsters that have effects that activate when they're tribute summoned, like the Monarchs, they can't really make use of this because they don't get their effects by being normal summoned, but by tribute summon. And the other super rare of value a little bit is Moray of Greed. Its effect is to shuffle 2 water monsters from your hand to your deck to then draw 3 cards. And that effect sounds really good when you first read it, but when you really look into it, it's not all that great. So you're using Moray of Greed, and then you're sending 2 cards back to the deck. So that's a -3, then becomes card neutral when you draw 3 cards. So effectively, it's kind of a reload. However, in the right deck, it is definitely better than reload, because while this card is card neutral, reload is a -1. But then you could also make the argument that reload is better because this card is very specific. It has to be 2 water monsters. So let's say you have an opening hand with this card and 3 other spell and trap cards, then you just can't use it. However, there are some water decks that have utilized it even recently, and it is a decent card, and it can be useful in the right deck, so I would say they're the only 2 super rares of any considerable value that, under the right circumstance, are worth going for. And then the rest of the cards, it's very similar. Yomi's ship has also been power crept by Raiko the Lightsworn Hunter, and just other good monsters that have effects that trigger when they're destroyed. And then there's Needle Sunfish, which saw a lot of play back in the day, and this card has a lot of things going for it, namely being a level 3 water fish type. That criteria makes it fit in pretty well with Water Exceed decks. However, the thing about that, while it's nice that the card has these benefiting attributes about it, there are just so many better options for Water Exceed decks at this point. There are so many good level 3 water fish type monsters, or level 4 water fish type monsters that can treat themselves as level 3. The card has been power crept, its effect isn't that useful these days. You ask me, this box is kind of a waste unless you really need a copy of Moray of Greed. And all that can be said for the rares and commons as well. If someone wanted to make the argument that Age of Discovery is the single worst box in the history of Duel Links, I would not stop them. This box is not good. And my overall recommendation is stay 100 feet away from this box. Never let any of your gems invest into it. I wouldn't even consider it. This is one of those just dead boxes. Alright guys, so that's the first episode of this series, going over Ultimate Rising and Age of Discovery. Hope you guys have a little more insight about the first 2 boxes in the game and where not to spend your gems, essentially. If you like this video, drop a like, consider subscribing to the channel. I would appreciate it, and I'll see you guys in the next video.